Good evening, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm Revel Host Shorty. And today, after a delay, we are finally getting around to reading Suicide Squad Blaze. I say finally getting around to reading it. I did actually read it at the weekend, but very, very busy. We had our Games Workshop stockist, and basically my entire weekend was getting all that sorted out. Did not have time to get in front of the camera and entertain you all. But I'm doing it now, so sorry about the wait. And I've got 5 minutes now to tell you about Suicide Squad Blaze, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do is spend 5 minutes telling you why you should go and read Simon Spurrier's and Aaron Campbell's Hellblazer, because it's the same creative team, and it's a really good comic book, and it's one that I think is going to stand the test of time. Definitely the best Hellblazer comic I've read in like 10, maybe 20 years, and it got cancelled, or at least not renewed during the whole COVID schmozzle. It basically ended up not getting the reach that DC expected it to, and they cut it short and gave Tom Taylor a chance to do 3 issues in Black Label. To be honest, I think bad idea, but I don't know if DC Comics. I couldn't possibly comment, but I will say go and read it. It's absolutely brilliant. That's not to say this isn't great also. I mean, it's a really good creative team. It's a team which understand each other, which rip each other's ideas, even down to tone of lettering and the very, very naturalistic conversations you get between characters. It also builds up the characters really effectively. Doesn't take up much time doing it. There's little drop-ins. Most of it comes through just one panel of the main character, basically telling you why he likes other people he likes and why some of them he doesn't. And he does it with, I forgot the term here, but it doesn't use many words. An efficiency of verbiage, shall we say. And he really basically just cuts to the quick, and it's fantastic. The actual story, kind of the same. There's a superheroic entity who is 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, swooping down from the skies, grabbing somebody up, eating them, and doing unspeakable things to them, and then dropping them again. And it's been going on for quite some time before anyone even notices. And then superheroes try and solve it. They can't. The Suicide Squad get called in. But they throw an extra thing into the mix here. You've got your kind of classic Suicide Squad characters. I think you recognise pretty much everything from the cover there. Get offered more than just some time off for good behavior. They get offered Blaze. Basically, it's a concoction that gives them absolutely amazing superpowers, but they'll die in 3 months. They're all like, nah, it's okay. I'm good, thanks. So they just rope in 5 other completely hapless cons in a basically gladiatorial challenge to the death to pick the 5 who are going to do it. Give them a variety of unusual superpowers and tell them we've got 3 months to live. Let's go and deal with this. And then fun and frolics ensue. And the fun and frolics thing is kind of my problem with Suicide Squad throughout most of the stuff I've read about it. It never takes itself quite seriously enough for me. And yes, you can do really good, funny comic books. You absolutely can. But for me, I think they need to temper that humor by telling a good story too. For instance, this one is all about the prison industrial complex and the military industrial complex. Yay, fun and games. But he doesn't make it too much about that. Simon Spurrier is a very good writer, and we know from his Hellblazer that he has a political bent to some of the stuff he says, and he's very, very good at doing what I'll now call left-wing dog whistles, basically the opposite of racist dog whistles. It doesn't actually sit down and put several pages in front of you telling you exactly why the prison industrial complex is bad or how it ties into the military industrial complex. It doesn't tell you anything about that specifically. It does a very good job of dropping nuggets of ideas through narration into your brain, and they sit there, and as the story unfolds, you're like, wow, yeah, this is actually, like, this is a really bad thing, and this is a more blown up version of what happens in the real world. Excellent thing, which I'll say repeatedly. What I love about genre fiction is when genre fiction tells a real story. Cannot stress this enough. This is a very, very good example of that. It is also very dark indeed. There's a reason why this one is Black Label. Suicide Squad, for the most part, tends to exist seemingly within the main DC universe. Excuse me. A friend of mine who read this described it as bleak, just one word, and it's hard to argue against that having now read it. It's not to say it doesn't have moments. There are some absolutely amazing, very high-intensity combat sequences where Jordi Belair's colouring comes to fruition absolutely amazingly here. But it also highlights just how brutal and visceral the combat is. There is no hiding away from the violence. There is no cutting to one side so you don't quite see people dying. There's literally people being torn apart on the page. And it's done with the same kind of attention you get in superhero stories when it's Superman fighting a giant robot from another universe. It gives you that chance to really get into it and kind of gives you a little bit of a hard time for enjoying it, which I think is an excellent way of dealing with violence in comic books. All in all, an absolutely brilliant start. Very different take on Suicide Squad than I'd usually go for. Well, no, than I'd usually see. This is exactly the take on it that I'm going to go for. This is on my pull list, but it is the oversized black label prestige format, which means I'm going to read this comic book and then I'm going to wait for the trade collection to come out, which I'm hoping will be a nice big hardback, which will look very pretty on my shelf. Certainly easier to handle than lots of thin, flimsy volumes like that, which are too big to go in my comic boxes. But still, thoroughly enjoyable. That's it from me today. I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.